Sirach. Chapter 1. All wisdom comes from the Lord and endures with him forever. The grains of sand, the drops of rain and the days of eternity, who can count them? The height of heaven, the extent of the earth and the depths of the abyss, who can measure them? Wisdom was created before all things and the prudent intellect before the beginning of time. To whom was the source of wisdom revealed? Who has known her secret designs? One alone is wise and greatly to be feared. The one who is seated upon his throne. The Lord himself created wisdom. He looked on her and knew her value. He poured her out over all his works. The fear of the Lord is our glory and honor, it is joy and a triumphant crown. The fear of the Lord gladdens the heart. For the one who fears the Lord, all will go well at the end of his life, and he will be blessed on the day of his death. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Founded from eternity, she has made her home among people, and she will remain faithful to their descendants. The fear of the Lord is the fullness of wisdom. It will fill you with its fruits. It will fill your whole house with desirable things. It will fill your houses with its riches. The fear of the Lord is the crown of wisdom. Wherever it is, peace and good health flourish. The fear of the Lord is the root of wisdom. Its branches are long life. Unjust violence cannot be justified, it will destroy itself by its own excesses. The patient man will hold out until the appointed time. He will guard his words until the appointed time, and in the end many will recognize his worth. Proverbs rich in content are among wisdom's treasures, but the sinner does not want to know about God. Do you desire wisdom? Keep the commandments and the Lord will give her to you without measure. Do not put aside fear of the Lord. Do not praise yourself lest you fall and bring dishonor on yourself. For the Lord will reveal your secrets and throw you to one side in the midst of the assembly, if you have no fear of the Lord, and your heart is full of deceit. Sirach. Fear God in time of trials. Chapter 2. My son, if you have decided to serve the Lord, prepare yourself for trials. Keep your heart upright and remain resolute. Hold fast to the Lord, do not separate yourself from him, so that you may be successful to the end of your days. Accept all that happens to you, be patient when you are humbled, for as gold is tested in the fire, so those acceptable to God are tested in the crucible of humiliation. Have confidence in him and he will take care of you. You who fear the Lord, wait for his mercy and do not turn away lest you fall. You who fear the Lord, trust him and you will not lose your reward. You who fear the Lord, hope for all good things. Remember what happened to your ancestors. Who has ever trusted in the Lord and been confounded? Who has persevered in fear of the Lord and been abandoned? Who has called upon him and not been heard? For the Lord is compassion and loving kindness. Woe to faint hearts and weak hands, to the sinner who wavers between two paths. Woe to the faint-hearted who lack confidence, because of this they will not be protected. Woe to you who have lost patience. What will you do when the Lord calls you to account? Those who fear the Lord do not disobey his commandments. Those who fear the Lord seek to please him. Sirach. Duties towards parents. Chapter 3. My children, it is your father who speaks, listen to me and follow my advice and so be saved. For the Lord established that children should respect their father. Whoever honors his father atones for his sins. Whoever honors his father will receive joy from his own children and will be heard when he prays. Whoever glorifies his father will have a long life. Whoever obeys the Lord gives comfort to his mother. He serves those who brought him to birth as he would serve the Lord. Honor your father in word and deed so that his blessing may come on you. For a father's bless secures the future of his children, but a mother's curse destroys them at their roots. Do not rejoice at the humiliation of your father because his dishonor is no glory for you. For a man's glory comes from his father's reputation. My child, take care of your father in his old age, do not cause him sorrow as long as he lives. Even if he has lost his mind, have patience. For kindness done to one's father will never be forgotten, it will serve as reparation for your sins. In the day of adversity the Lord will remember it to your advantage. Humility. My son, conduct your affairs with discretion and you will be loved by those who are acceptable to God. The greater you are, the more you should humble yourself and thus you will find favor with God. For great is the power of the Lord and it is the humble who give him glory. Do not seek what is beyond your powers nor search into what is beyond your ability. Reflect on what you are commanded to do. Do not tire yourself in resolving useless questions since the knowledge you already have goes beyond human understanding. For many have been led astray by their personal theories and false pretension has undermined reason. The obstinate man will eventually fall into evil, and he who loves danger will perish therein. The obstinate man will be weighed down with sufferings. For the sufferings of the proud man there is no remedy, the roots of evil are implanted in him. The wise man reflects on Proverbs. What the wise man desires is an attentive ear. Almsgiving. As water extinguishes the burning flames, almsgiving obtains pardon for sins. The man who responds by doing good prepares for the future, at the moment of his downfall he will find support. Sirach chapter 4. My son, do not deny the poor his food and do not make the man who looks at you with pleading eyes wait. Do not sadden the hungry person nor annoy anyone who is in need. Do not exasperate an angry man nor withhold alms from the beggar. Do not drive away the beggar who is weighed down with afflictions, nor turn away your face from the poor. If someone curses you in the bitterness of his heart, the Creator will hear his prayer. Make yourself acceptable to the community. Listen to the poor man and reply to him with kind words and with peace. Deliver the oppressed from the hands of the oppressor. Do not be weak when you administer justice. Be like a father towards orphans and like a husband towards their mothers. Then you will be like a son of the Most High and he will love you more than your own mother. Wisdom brings up her children and takes care of those who look for her. Whoever loves her loves life. Those who rise early in the morning in search of her will be filled with joy. Whoever possesses her will have glory and wherever he goes blessings will follow. Those who serve her are ministers of the Holy One. Whoever trusts in her will possess her and his children after him will inherit her. For in the beginning she will lead him by rough paths, causing him to fear and be terrified. Then she will lead him on a level path, give him joy and reveal her secrets to him. But if he wanders from the path, she will abandon him and allow him to be lost. In every situation weigh the pros and cons and avoid evil. A wrong kind of shame could harm you. There is a shame which leads to sin and there is a shame which merits praise and respect. Do not act against your better self to win favor from others. Do not let this kind of shame lead you into sin. Do not remain silent when it is necessary to speak. Do not, through pride, hide your wisdom. It is in speech that wisdom is recognized and learning in the spoken discourse. Do not contradict the truth. Have no shame in confessing your sins, do not swim against the tide. Do not cringe before a fool. Fight for the truth till death and the Lord will fight for you. Do not be daring in your speech, but lazy and negligent in works. Do not be like a lion in your household, finding fault with your servants and oppressing those under you. Do not open your hand to receive and keep it closed when you should give. Sirach. Do not rely on wealth. Chapter 5. Do not rely on your wealth. Do not say, I am self-sufficient. Do not let yourself be carried away by greed and violence. Do not say, who can stop me? For the Lord has power to punish you. Do not say, I have sinned and nothing has happened. For the Lord bides his time. Do not be so sure of pardon when you are heaping sin upon sin. Do not say, his compassion is great. He will forgive the vast number of my sins. For with him is mercy but also anger. Do not delay your return to the Lord, do not put it off from day to day. For suddenly the anger of the Lord will blaze forth and you will perish on the day of reckoning. Rely on riches wrongfully acquired, for they will be of no use to you on the day of wrath. Do not be swayed by every wind nor try to walk by every path, as does the sinner who is accustomed to lie. Remain firm in your convictions, and be consistent in your speech. Be ready to listen, and know how to wait before giving your reply. If you know what you are saying, answer your neighbor. Do not let yourself be known as a scandalmonger or a deceiver. For if shame is the lot of the robber, severe condemnation is the lot of the liar. Do not sin in big things nor in little things, and from being a friend do not turn into an enemy. An evil reputation brings in its train shame and disgrace. Sirach chapter 6. Just as the wicked man inherits confusion and shame, so will the sinner accustomed to lying. Do not give yourself over to your passions. Friends. A gentle word makes many friends, an agreeable tongue calls forth gracious replies. Let your friends be many. If you would gain a friend, begin by testing him and do not put your confidence in him too quickly. For there is the friend who is such when it suits him, but he does not remain faithful in the time of your adversity. There is the friend who becomes an enemy and, to your confusion, makes known why you quarreled. There is the friend who shares your table but does not remain faithful when things go against you. In times of prosperity he will be like your shadow, and he will speak freely to those of your household. But if you are humiliated, he will turn against you and will avoid meeting you. Distance yourself from your enemies and be careful about your friends. The faithful friend is a secure refuge. Whoever fears the Lord will make true friends, for, as a man is, such will his friend be. My son, dedicate yourself to learn from your youth, and you will grow in wisdom until old age. Work at it like the worker and the sower, cultivate wisdom and wait for her excellent fruits. For in cultivating her you will have some trouble, but soon you will enjoy her fruits. Wisdom is very severe with the ignorant. Fools will not persevere. She will be like a heavy weight or a difficult test which he will quickly throw away. For wisdom brings her own honor, she does not reveal herself to everyone. Listen, my son, and receive my teaching, do not reject my counsel. Put her constraints on your feet and her yoke on your neck. Put your shoulder to the burden and bear her yoke. For, in the end, you will find in her your rest and she will become your joy. Her constraints will strengthen your steps and her collar will be like a glorious garment. Her yoke will become an ornament of gold and her chains like precious girdles of hyacinth blue. You will adorn yourself as with a garment of glory and you will put her on like a crown of jubilation. If you wish, my son, you will be learned. Be on your guard in the assembly of the elders, and if there is a wise man there, attach yourself to him. Be willing to listen to all discourses on divine things, and do not let the sayings of the wise escape you. If you see an intelligent man, follow him from daybreak and let your feet beat a pathway to his door. Meditate on the precepts of the Lord and apply yourself unceasingly to his commandments. He will strengthen your heart and the wisdom you desire will be given to you. Sirach chapter 7. Do no evil and evil will not take hold of you. Keep away from wrongdoing and it will leave you alone. Do not sow in the furrows of injustice for fear of reaping its harvest sevenfold. Do not demand authority from the Lord nor from the king a place of honor. Do not make yourself out to be a just man before the Lord or a wise man in front of the king. Do not seek a position of responsibility lest you not be powerful enough to root out injustice and, overawed by a powerful man, you lose your integrity. Do not offend the city's assembly. Do not commit the same sin twice. Do not say, when I sacrifice to God, the Most High will take into account the number of gifts and he will accept them. Pray with a strong spirit and do not neglect to give alms. Do not despise a man when he is downcast, for there is one who casts down and who raises up. Do not lie about your brother. Do not allow yourself any kind of lie, for nothing good will come of it. Do not gossip in front of the council of the elders, nor keep on repeating your words in prayer. Do not hate hard work nor the tilling of the land as instituted by the Most High. Do not join the company of sinners, remember that the wrath of God will not be delayed. Remain humble, because the godless are punished with fire and worms. Do not exchange your friend for money, nor a real brother for the gold of Ophir. Do not separate yourself from a wise and good woman, because a gracious wife is worth more than gold. Do not maltreat the servant who works honestly, nor the laborer who works diligently. Love the intelligent slave as yourself and do not deprive him of his freedom. Have you any cattle? Take care of them. If they are profitable to you, keep them. Have you children? Educate them and teach them to obey from their childhood. Have you any daughters? Guard their virginity and do not be indulgent towards them. If you marry off your daughter you will have accomplished something of importance, but give her to an intelligent man. Have you a wife who is according to your liking? Do not send her away. As for the one you dislike, do not trust her. Honor your father with your whole heart and do not be forgetful of the sufferings of your mother. Remember that they gave you birth. How can you repay them for what they have done for you? Reverence the Lord with all your being and respect the priests. Love your Creator with all your strength and do not abandon his ministers. Fear the Lord and honor the priest. Give him the share which has been commanded, the first harvest, the sin offering, the shoulders of the victims, the holy offerings and the first fruits of sacred things. Stretch out your hand to the poor and you will receive a blessing from the Lord. May your gifts benefit the living and do not forget the dead. Do not turn away from those who weep, and grieve with those who are in sorrow. Do not neglect to visit the sick because it is for such acts that you will be loved. In all your actions remember your last end and you will never sin. Sirach. Prudence and Common Sense. Chapter 8. Do not argue with a powerful man lest you fall into his hands. Do not quarrel with a rich man lest he throw his weight into the scale against you. Do not argue with a talkative person. Do not joke with an ignorant man for fear your ancestors will be insulted. Do not offend the man who repents of his sins, remember that we are all deserving punishment. Do not despise a man in his old age, because we ourselves will grow old. Do not rejoice at the death of any man, remember that we shall all die. Do not neglect the teaching of the wise, apply yourself well to their precepts. Through them you will learn how to live and how to serve the great. Do not set aside the teachings of the elders for they also learnt it from their forebears. Do nothing to arouse the sinner for fear of being burned by the flames of his fire. Do not annoy the angry man for fear that he will twist your words to his own advantage. Do not lend to those more powerful than yourself. Do not stand surety beyond your means. Do not go to law with a judge because, due to his position, judgment will be given in his favor. Do not travel with an adventurer lest he impose himself on you and, as he does whatever he pleases, you both perish through his folly. Do not quarrel with a bad-tempered person nor get involved with him in a lonely place. Do not take counsel with a fool because he will not be able to remain silent about what you have said. Do nothing which should be secret before a stranger because you do not know how he will react. Do not reveal your secrets to any man, he will not be grateful to you for doing so. Sirach. Man with Women. Chapter 9. Do not be jealous of your own wife. Do not put yourself into the power of any woman to the point where she can dominate you. Do not go near a woman of ill repute for fear of falling into her nets. Do not dally with a singing girl for fear of being caught in her snare. Do not fix your gaze on a young girl for fear of being involved in her condemnation. Do not deliver yourself into the power of prostitutes lest you lose your inheritance. Do not glance about you in the streets of the town. Turn your eyes away from a good-looking woman and do not stare at a beautiful foreigner. For the beauty of a woman has caused many to fall. Never sit near a married woman or drink wine with her, for fear that your feelings towards her be roused and that in your passion you slide towards your downfall. Do not abandon an old friend, for a new one has not the same value. New wine, new friend. Do not envy the success of the sinner, you do not know what his end will be. Do not take pleasure in what pleases the godless, remember that they will be punished before they die. Keep well away from the man who has power to kill and you will not experience the fear of death. But if you go with him, avoid all offense for fear that he will deprive you of life, realize that you are passing through death traps and that you are walking on top of the wall. As far as you can, be sociable and take counsel with learned men. Love to speak with intelligent men and let all your discourses be about the law of the Most High. Let just men be your companions at table. An artisan is judged by his work and a leader of the community, by the wisdom of his words. A talkative man is dreaded in his town and the gossip makes himself disliked. Sirach, chapter 10. The wise leader will teach his people. As the leader is, so will his ministers be. A king without wisdom will ruin his people. The government of the earth is in the hands of the Lord. Human success is in the hands of the Lord and he clothes the rulers with his glory. Pride. Do not store up resentment against your neighbor, no matter what his offense. Pride is odious to both God and man. Sovereignty passes from one nation to another because of injustice, violence and wealth. How can there be such pride in someone who is nothing but dust and ashes? Even while he is living, man's bowels are full of rottenness. Look, the illness lasts while the doctor makes light of it. Once a man is dead, grubs, insects and worms are his lot. The beginning of man's pride is to separate himself from the Lord and to rebel against his Creator. The beginning of pride is sin. Whoever perseveres in sinning opens the floodgates to everything that is evil. For this the Lord has inflicted dire punishment on sinners. The Lord has overturned the thrones of princes and set up the meek in their place. The Lord has torn up the proud by the roots and has planted the humble in their place. The Lord has overturned the land of the pagans and totally destroyed them. He has devastated several of them, destroyed them and removed all remembrance of them from the face of the earth. Pride was not created for man nor violent anger, for those born of woman. Which race is worthy of honor? The human race. Which race is worthy of honor? Those who fear the Lord. Which race is despicable? The human race. Which race is despicable? Those who break the commandments. The leader is worthy of respect in the midst of his brethren, but he has respect for those who fear the Lord. Whether they be rich, honored or poor, their pride should be in fearing the Lord. It is not right to despise the poor man who keeps the law. The leader, the judge, and the powerful man are worthy of honor, but no one is greater than the man who fears the Lord. A prudent slave will have free men as servants, and the sensible man will not complain. Do not feel proud when you have only accomplished your work. Of greater worth is the man who works and lives in abundance than the one who shows off and yet has nothing to live on. My son, have a modest appreciation of yourself, estimate yourself at your true value. Who will defend the man who makes an attempt on his own life? Who will respect the man who despises himself? The poor man will be honored for his wisdom and the rich man, for his riches. Honored when poor, how much more honored when rich? Dishonored when rich, how much more dishonored when poor? Sirach chapter 11. The poor man who is wise carries his head high and sits among the great. Do not praise a man because he is handsome, and do not hold a man in contempt because of his appearance. The bee is one of the smallest winged insects, but she excels in the exquisite sweetness of her honey. Do not be proud because of the clothes you wear. Many powerful men have been completely disgraced and famous men handed over into the power of others. Do not reprehend anyone unless you have first been fully informed. Consider the case first and thereafter make your reproach. Do not reply before you have listened. Do not interfere in what is not your business. My child, do not undertake too many activities. If you keep adding to them, you will not be without reproach. Put your trust in God. There are those who exhaust themselves, tire themselves out and become anxious, yet in the end they are only the poorer. There are those who are weak, needing support, lacking goods and in great poverty, yet the eyes of the Lord look on them with favor. The Lord will redress their humiliation. He will raise their heads, and many people will marvel on this account. Good and evil, life and death, poverty and riches, all come from the Lord. The just can count on the generosity of the Lord, and his goodness will guide them forever. A man may become rich through being careful and miserly, and this is his reward. The day on which he thinks, I have earned my rest, now I can live on my possessions, he does not know how long he is going to live. He will have to die and leave his goods to others. Remain faithful to your duty, give your life to it and grow old in your work. Do not be disconcerted at the success of sinners, but have confidence in God and persevere in your own efforts. It is easy for the Lord in an instant to make the poor man rich. The blessing of the Lord is the just man's reward, and quickly, in an instant, his benediction will bear fruit. Do not say, what do I need? What more could I have or desire? Do not say, I have all that is necessary, what misfortune can harm me now? On good days, one forgets the bad. Even when the end draws near, it is easy for the Lord to reward a man according to the way he has lived. The hour of adversity makes one forget pleasure. Do not consider anyone as blessed before his death, for only then he will be known. Do not invite just anybody into your house, for many are clever deceivers. Like a partridge in its cage acting as a decoy, so is the heart of the proud man. He changes good things into evil, he lays his traps and criticizes even the best things. Just as a spark sets coals on fire, the wicked man prepares his snares in order to draw blood. Beware of the wicked man, for he is planning evil. he might dishonor you forever. If you take a stranger into your house, he will cause you trouble. Sirach, chapter 12. If you do good, know to whom you are doing it, and you will receive thanks for your kindness. Do good to the godly man and you will receive a reward, if not from the man himself, at least from the Most High. Blessings are not for those who persist in evil-doing, nor for those who refuse to show compassion. Give to the godly man, do not help the sinner. For the Most High himself detests sinners and carries out his vengeance on the ungodly. Give to the good man but do not help the sinner. A friend does not become an enemy in the time of prosperity, nor does an enemy remain hidden in the time of adversity. When a man is doing well, his enemies are sad. Never trust an enemy, for his malice is like bronze covered in rust. Even if he should act as a humble man and walk with head bowed down, watch yourself and be on your guard against him. Behave towards him as a man who polishes a bronze mirror. Know that the rust will not remain until the end. Do not place him near you lest he overthrow you and take your place. Do not make him sit on your right hand lest he covet your seat. Let it not be that in the end you understand my words and regret not having listened to my advice. Who will have pity on the snake charmer bitten by a snake or on those who go near wild beasts? It is the same for the man who joins company with a sinner and finds himself involved in his wrongdoing. The sinner will remain quietly with you for an hour, but when you are distracted he will throw away his mask. The enemy is all sweetness in his speech, but in his heart he is planning to throw you in the ditch. The enemy has tears in his eyes, but, if he finds an opportunity, he cannot have enough of your blood. If misfortune comes to you, you will find him there before you. Sirach. Beware of the great. Chapter 13. He who touches tar will be soiled. Do not carry too heavy a load. The rich man does wrong and is unconcerned. The rich man uses you as long as you are useful to him. He will stay with you as long as you have something. If he really needs you he will deceive you, smile at you and raise your hopes. He will show his gratitude by entertaining you until he has taken all you possess, and he will make fun of you in the end. Afterwards, when he sees you, he will have nothing to do with you, shaking his head when he meets you. Take care not to be deceived and humiliated through stupidity. When an influential person envies you, delay and he will call you all the more. Do not go so far forward that you are pushed aside or so far back that you are overlooked. Do not try to talk to him as an equal or trust his many words. With all this verbiage he is only trying to test you and, under pretense of kindness, he is weighing you up. He will repeat your words without pity and will not spare you either blows or chains. Be wary and take great care because you are walking with your own stumbling block. All that lives loves its own kind and each person, his own neighbor. Every animal relates to its own species and man to his own kind. What has the wolf in common with the lamb? It is the same with the sinner and the virtuous man. What kind of peace can exist between the hyena and the dog? What peace between the rich man and the poor man? Wild donkeys are the prey of desert lions. The proud man hates humility. When the rich man stumbles, his friends support him, but when the poor man falls, his friends desert him. When the rich man gets into trouble, there are many who come to his rescue. Wealth is good if there is no sin in it, and poverty is evil when it is the reward for godlessness. Enjoy life without being greedy. Man's heart is reflected in his face, for better or for worse. Does he show a happy face? All is going well to him. Has he found words of wisdom? He has reflected on suffering. Sirach chapter 14. Happy the one who has not sinned in speech or who feels no remorse for his faults. Happy is he whose own conscience does not condemn him and who has not fallen from his ideals. Wealth does not befit the small-minded man. He who is mean to himself, with whom will he be good? He does not even enjoy his own riches. There is nothing worse than one who is mean to himself. This is how his evil repays him. If he does good, he does it without realizing it, but, in the end, his evil will be revealed. Evil is the greedy-eyed man who does not pay attention to persons and looks down on people. The ambitious man is not content with what he has. Wicked injustice shrivels up the heart. The envious eye covets the food of others. My son, use well whatever you have and give worthy offerings to the Lord. Remember that death will not delay and your time has not yet been revealed to you. Be good to your friend before you die and be generous to him in any way you can. Enjoy happiness and do not reject lawful pleasure when it comes your way. Will you not have to leave to another the fruit of your works? The fruit of your labor, will it not be shared out by lot? Give, take and treat yourself well, for in the netherworld there are no pleasures to seek. All living things grow old like clothing. This is the eternal law, you will die. Like green leaves on a bushy tree, some sprout and others fall off, so are the generations of flesh and blood, one dies and another is born. All finite things pass away and their maker with them. Happy the one seeking wisdom. Happy the one who is intent on wisdom and who can reply to those who question him. He places his tent in the hands of wisdom. Sirach chapter 15. Such is the one who fears the Lord. Wisdom will make him greater than his friends and he will be able to speak in the full assembly. He will be crowned with happiness and joy. He will inherit an everlasting name. The fool will never possess her, and sinners will never set eyes on her. She is far away from pride, and liars will know nothing of her. Praise is not fitting on the lips of sinners since it does not come from the Lord. Praise must come from the wise man. God made us free and responsible. Do not say, "It was God who made me sin." God does not cause what he hates. Do not say, "He made me do wrong," for he has nothing to do with a sinner. The Lord hates all evil and those who fear him hate it as well. When he created man in the beginning, he left him free to make his own decisions. If you wish, you can keep the commandments and it is in your power to remain faithful. He has set fire and water before you. Life and death are set before man, whichever a man prefers will be given him. How magnificent is the wisdom of the Lord! He is powerful and all-seeing. His eyes are on those who fear him. He knows all the works of man. He has commanded no one to be godless and has given no one permission to sin. Sirach. No happiness for the wicked. Chapter 16. Do not long for a brood of worthless children, and take no joy in godless sons. However many you have, do not rejoice in them if they have no fear of God. Do not depend on their having a long life, or trust in their number, because one is better than 1,000 and their death is preferable to their being godless. A city can arise from one man who is prudent. Yet, even though the wicked become a great tribe, they will be destroyed. I have seen such things with my own eyes and my ears have heard of still greater things. Fire has come upon the meeting of sinners and God's wrath is kindled against rebellious people. God did not pardon the leaders of old who rebelled in their pride of strength. He did not spare the city where Lot lived. He showed no pity on the people doomed to destruction. In the same way, he dealt with the 600,000 men who, in the hardness of their hearts, had revolted. Had there been only one stubborn man, it would have been amazing if he had escaped unpunished, since mercy and anger belong to the Lord who is powerful both in forgiveness and in punishment. His justice is as great as his mercy, and he judges people by their deeds. Just as the sinner will not escape with his booty, the patience of the upright man will not go unrewarded. God will reward every act of mercy. Do not say, "I will hide from the Lord." Look, the sky and the heavens above the sky, the sea and the earth tremble when he comes. The mountains, together with the foundations of the earth, are filled with dread before his sight. But nobody thinks of such things. Who is interested in the ways of God? Most of his works go unnoticed, and man does not see where the storm originates. Who tells us of the interventions of God? Who expects them? The covenant is far away. Such are the thoughts of the man of little sense, the foolish, dissolute man who loves his illusions. Listen to me, my sons. God the Creator. God created his works from the beginning, and, as he made them, he assigned to each its place. He arranged them for all time, their beginning and their unfolding. They do not hunger or grow weary, and they never cease from their duties. Not one has collided with its neighbor. Afterwards, the Lord looked down on the earth and filled it with his riches. He covered its surface with all kinds of living things which must return to it. Sirach chapter 17. The Lord created man from the earth and let him return to earth. He settled a fixed time for them and a set number of days, giving them power over everything on earth. He endowed them with a strength like his own, making them in his own image. He put the fear of them in all living things, thus they had mastery over the animals and birds. He endowed them with knowledge. He filled them with wisdom and knowledge. He gave them revealed knowledge as well and handed over to them the law of life. He established an everlasting covenant with them and let them know his judgments. Human eyes saw the splendor of the glory of God. Their conduct is always before the Lord. He has placed a leader over each nation, but Israel is the Lord's own portion. Their deeds are as clear as the sun to him, he always observes their ways. Their misdeeds cannot be hidden from him, all their sins are before the Lord. He holds a man's almsgiving dear as a priceless signet ring. One day he will rise and reward them. He allows those who repent to return. Be converted to the Lord and give up your sins, plead with him to lessen your offense. Return to the Almighty, turn aside from wrongdoing and totally detest evil. For who in the grave will praise the Almighty, if the living do not give him glory? The dead man is as if he did not exist and cannot give praise. How great is the mercy of the Lord and his forgiveness for those who turn to him. Man cannot have everything in his power since he is not immortal. What is brighter than the sun? Yet it disappears. Man is no more than flesh and blood, yet he thinks of doing evil. While the sun surveys the stars in the lofty sky, human beings remain dust and ashes. Sirach. The greatness of God. Chapter 18. He who lives forever created all without exception. The Lord alone will be found righteous. He has made no one powerful enough to proclaim his works. Who can calculate the power of his majesty and relate his great goodness? Nothing can be added to him or taken away. When man thinks he has finished, then he is only beginning, and when he stops he is puzzled by it all. What is man? What is his purpose? What is the good in him and what the bad? Take the length of his life, 100 years is long. Like a drop of water from the sea, a grain of sand, such are his few years compared with eternity. For this reason, the Lord has patience with them and pours out his mercy on them. He sees and realizes how miserable their end is, and so he heaps his forgiveness upon them. Man's mercy is for his neighbor, but the compassion of the Lord reaches all people. My son, Do not mix your favors with unkind remarks or your gifts with bitter words. Does not do temper the heat? So, too, a kind word is much better than a gift. The gift is not as valuable as the words which accompany it, but a generous man brings both. The fool intends to please but insults, a grudging man's gift makes the eyes smart. Find out the facts before you speak. Examine yourself before judgment comes and, on the day of God's visitation, you will be forgiven. Humble yourself before you become ill and show repentance for your sins. Let nothing prevent you from fulfilling your vow on time. Prepare yourself before praying and do not be one of those who tempt the Lord. Keep in mind the justice of the last days. When you experience abundance, remember the days of famine. Time slips by between morning and evening, all things pass quickly before the Lord. The prudent man is cautious in everything. Every sensible man recognizes wisdom and respects those who obtain her. Those who speak sensibly are wise, and marvelous sayings flow from them. Do not let your passions rule you and restrain your desires. If you satisfy your lusts, you will make yourself the laughingstock of your enemies. Do not take pleasure in great luxury, lest you become impoverished by its expense. Do not impoverish yourself by feasting on credit when you have nothing in your pocket. Sirach chapter 19. A drunken worker will never be rich. Wine and women corrupt the best of men. When to speak and when to be silent. He who is too quick to trust others reveals a shallow mind, whoever sins injures himself. One who revels in pleasure will be condemned, hating gossip will save one from evil. Never repeat what you are told and you will come to no harm. Report nothing to friend or foe and, unless silence is sinful, reveal it to no one that they will listen, distrust you and you will end up being hated. Have you heard something? Let it die with you, remain calm. A fool suffers like a woman in childbirth over something he is told. Like an arrow stuck in his thigh, such is a secret inside a fool. Speak with your friend, perhaps he has done nothing and, if he has, he will not do it again. Speak with your friend, perhaps he has not said anything and, if he has, he will not say it again. Speak with your friend for there is much slander. All wisdom is in the fear of the Lord. Knowledge of evil is not wisdom, and prudence is not found in the advice of sinners. There is a cleverness that is loathsome. Better to lack sense and be full of the fear of the Lord, than to be clever in violating the law. There is an ingenious shrewdness which carries out injustice. One does not sin when the means are lack ing. You can tell a man by his appearance. A man's way of dressing reveals who he is, as does his manner of laughing and walking. Sirach. The stupid and foolish. Chapter 20. There are rebukes which are inopportune. Better to rebuke than nurse a grudge. He who recognizes his fault diminishes its consequences. Like a eunuch desiring to violate a girl, such is he who uses force in pretending to be just. One keeps silent and is thought to be wise, the other makes himself hated because of his gossiping. One remains silent because he does not know how to reply. The wise man keeps silent until the right moment. He who speaks too much makes himself hated. Man can turn his troubles to his advantage. There is a type of generosity which will not reward you and another which will repay you double. One is humiliated for having had honors. One buys much with little money. The wise man makes himself lovable through his words alone, while the favors of the fool are lost. The fool's gift is not to your advantage. The fool says, I have no friends, no one welcomes my favors, those who eat my bread have evil tongues. How often they will mock him, and by how many? Better to stumble on the ground than to make a slip with the tongue. The rough-mannered man is like an indiscreet story that ill-mannered people tell out of time. The proverb told by a fool will fail, since he does not speak it at an appropriate time. One keeps himself from sin because he does not have the means to act. One loses his soul out of false shame. Lying is a shameful defect in a man. Better to be a thief than a liar, yet both are heading for disaster. Habitual lying is detestable. The wise man's words advance his cause. He who tills the earth increases his produce. Presents and gifts blind a wise man's eyes. Concealed wisdom and hidden treasure, what good are these? The man who conceals his stupidity is better than one who conceals his wisdom. Sirach chapter 21. Have you sinned, my son? Do not do it again and beg forgiveness for your past sins. Escape from sin as you would from a snake. All evil is like a double-edged sword which inflicts wounds past remedy. Violence and pride bring down the rich. The poor man's prayer reaches the ears of the Lord, and his judgment will not delay. Whoever hates correction goes the way of sinners. The chatterer is known everywhere, but the discreet man recognizes his weakness. Building a house with borrowed money is like collecting stones for your own tomb. The meeting of sinners is like a pile of rope which will go up in fire and flames. The path of sinners is well paved, but it ends in the fiery abyss. He who keeps the law is in control of his thoughts. The man who is not clever will never be taught. The wise man's knowledge spreads out like a flood, and his advice is like a spring. The fool's heart is like a broken glass which cannot hold any teaching. If an educated man hears a wise saying, he values it and adds another. If the good-for-nothing hears it, he is annoyed and tosses it over his shoulder. The fool's talk weighs like a load, while the wise man's words give rest. The assembly awaits the wise man's words. The fool's wisdom is like a house in ruins, the knowledge of the fool amounts to nonsense. The stupid and foolish. As far as the fool is concerned, instruction is no more than handcuffs and fetters. The idiot laughs aloud while the intelligent man merely smiles quietly. Instruction is like a golden ornament to the shrewd man, like a bracelet on his right arm. The fool steps inside the house immediately, the experienced man would not be so bold. The fool looks in through the door, the polite man remains outside. Listening outside doors reveals a bad upbringing, the upright man would be ashamed of doing so. Strangers speak thoughtlessly of everything, while wise men's words are carefully weighed. The heart of fools is in their mouth, but the mouth of the wise is in their heart. When the godless man curses his opponent, the curse descends on himself. The slanderer taints himself and makes himself hated by all around him. Sirach chapter 22. The idler is like a dirty stone, his disgrace is laughed at. The idler is like a heap of dung, all who touch it shake it off their hands. Badly brought up sons are the shame of their father, and daughters, a humiliation. A sensible daughter is a treasure to her husband, but the disgraceful one is a burden to her father. A shameless daughter brings disgrace on her father as well as her husband. The untimely word is like music at a funeral, but beating and correction guided by wisdom are never out of place. Teaching a fool is like gluing a broken jar, it is easier to awaken a man from deep sleep. Reasoning with a fool is like reasoning with a drowsy man. Weep for the dead man since the light has deserted him, weep for the fool because understanding has deserted him. Cry less for the dead man. Mourning the dead lasts 7 days, but it lasts a lifetime for the fool and godless man. Do not waste words on the fool or go with the stupid man. What is heavier than lead? What is its name but fool? Sand, salt and a load of iron are easier to bear than a fool. The wooden joint in a building is not dislodged by an earthquake. A decision based on serious reflection stands like plaster on a firm wall. Stakes set on a height do not resist the wind. Striking the eye brings tears. Whoever throws stones at birds scares them off. If you have drawn your sword against a friend, do not despair, it can be put back. Win your neighbor's confidence when he is poor so that you may enjoy his goods with him when he grows rich. Smoke and fumes precede the fire. I will not be ashamed of protecting a friend, nor will I avoid him. Who will put a guard on my mouth and effectively lock up my lips to prevent me from sinning and my tongue from hastening my ruin? Sirach chapter 23. O Lord, Father and Master of my life, do not abandon me to the thoughtless words of my lips or allow me to fall because of them. Who will deal out punishment to my thoughts and apply the discipline of wisdom to my heart? Let them not be indulgent at my sins or the mistakes of my mind, lest my errors increase and sins multiply, and I fall into the hands of my enemies, to the joy of my foes. Lord, Father and God of my life, do not allow me to become haughty. Do not let lust and lechery take hold of me. Children, learn how to control your language. The sinner will be caught in his own words, as happens to the proud man and to him who curses. Do not get used to swearing, taking the name of the Holy One. For, just as the slave who is constantly watched will not escape without blows, so you, also, will not be found guiltless after constantly calling upon his name. The man who swears habitually will be found full of sins, and disgrace will not depart from his house. If he fails to keep his oath due to carelessness, punishment will descend upon him. About impurity and adultery. There is a way of talking which deserves death. Do not accustom your mouth to foul language, for it will be sinful talk. Remember your father and mother when you are sitting in the company of the great, lest you forget yourself in their presence and act like a fool. Then you would wish you had never been born, and curse the day of your birth. A man used to indecent talk will never be reformed in his lifetime. Two kinds of people multiply sins, and a third attracts the Lord's anger. A blazing passion which burns like fire will not be extinguished until it burns itself up. A man who seeks pleasure from his own body, he will not give up until he catches fire. The man unfaithful to the marriage bed who thinks like this, who sees me? Darkness surrounds me, the walls hide me. He fears the scrutiny of men and does not realize that the Lord's eyes are 1,000 times brighter than the sun, that they watch the conduct of all men and penetrate into the most secret corners. All things were present to him before they were created, and so will they be after their end. This man will be punished in view of the whole city, he will be caught when he least expects it. In the same way, the woman who is unfaithful to her husband and gives him an heir by another man will be punished. First, she has disobeyed the law of the Almighty. Secondly, she has sinned against her husband, and thirdly, she is tainted with adultery, for she has had children by another man. She will be taken before the assembly and questioned about her children. The children will not be able to take root. People who have seen her will know that nothing matters more than the fear of the Lord, and nothing is sweeter than fulfilling his commands. Sirach. The Hymn of Wisdom. Chapter 24. Listen to wisdom singing her own praises and extolling herself in the midst of her people. See, she opens her mouth in the assembly of the Most High, she glories in herself before the Almighty. I came out from the mouth of God and covered the face of the earth like a mist. I alone have seen and understood the vault of the skies and strolled through the depths of the abyss, taking possession of the raging sea and of the earth as well, with all its peoples and nations. In all of these, I looked for a place to rest. Then the Creator of the universe commanded me, He who created me assigned the place of my rest, picture tent in Jacob. He created me from the beginning, before time began, and I will never cease to be. I celebrate in His presence the liturgy of His holy dwelling, and this is why I settled in Zion. The Lord let me rest in His beloved city, and Jerusalem is the heart of my kingdom. I took root in the people God has favored, in the land of the Lord, in their inheritance. I grew like a cedar in Lebanon, as the cypress on Mount Hermon. I grew like the palm trees in En-Gedi and the rosebuds of Jericho. I poured out my perfume like a fragrant flower, like exquisite myrrh I have given choice scent. I spread out my branches like a vine. Come to me, you who desire me, and take your fill of my fruits. To experience me is sweeter than honey, and to possess me sweeter than any honeycomb. Those who eat me will hunger still. All this is in the Bible, the testament of the Most High God, the book of the law which Moses entrusted to us, the inheritance of the congregations of Israel. This law feeds the springs of wisdom, like the Pishon or Tigris in the season of fruit. Waters overflowing with understanding come from it, as from the Euphrates and Jordan at harvest time. He who comes first is unable to grasp her fully, and neither will the last exhaust her. For her thoughts are wider than the sea, and her designs deeper than the abyss. I have not worked for myself alone. I, for my part, went forth like a brook from a river, a stream diverted into a delightful garden. I thought, let me irrigate my orchard and water my flowers. But now my brook has grown into a river, and the river, into a sea. May my teaching shine forth like the dawn. See, all of you, that I have not worked for myself alone, but for all those who seek wisdom. Sirach chapter 25. 3 things delight me and are delightful to God and people: agreement between brothers, friendship between neighbors, and perfect harmony between husband and wife. There are 3 kinds of persons whom I detest and whose existence I cast away from me: a poor man full of pride, a rich man who is a liar, and an adulterous old man who is a fool. If you have saved nothing in your youth, what will you have in old age? What a great thing is old age with sound judgment, an old man who can counsel. What a great thing is wisdom in those who are old, or understanding and prudence in the great. Rich experience is the crown of the old, their pride is the fear of the Lord. I think of 9 things which I consider happy, and a 10th to which I will also refer: the man who finds his happiness in his children. Since the fear of the Lord excels everything, who can compare with the one who possesses it? Any wound rather than the wound of the heart. There is no poison worse than a snake's venom, there is no rage worse than an enemy. Better to live with a lion and a snake than to share a house with a wicked woman. Wickedness disfigures a woman's appearance, it saddens the face, making her look like a bear. When her husband dines with his neighbor, he sighs bitterly, in spite of himself. All wickedness is nothing compared with a woman's wickedness. Let her lot be that of a sinner. As a sandhill is to an old man's feet, so is the talkative woman to her quiet husband. Do not be fooled by a woman's beauty or fall in love with her. Expect anger, reproach, and plenty of shame when the wife rules the husband. Dejected spirits, a sad face, and unseen wounds, these are the work of a wicked woman. Idle hands and unsteady knees are found when a wife brings her husband no happiness. For sin began with woman, and we all die because of the inheritance of the congregations of Israel. Do not let water leak out or give free rein to a wicked woman. If she does not do as you tell her, get rid of her. Sirach chapter 26. Happy the husband of a good wife, the number of his days will be doubled. A woman of character is her husband's joy, he will live in peace all the years of his life. A good wife is the best of gifts, reserved for those who fear the Lord. 3 things disturb me and a 4th frightens me: neighborhood gossip, a rioting mob, a false accusation. All these are worse than death. But the woman jealous of another woman brings heartbreak, her tongue lashes out at everyone. A bad wife is like a badly fixed yoke. A drunken wife causes scandal. A licentious woman is noticed by her secretive looks and recognized by her lively eyes. Keep a firm eye on a defiant daughter, so that she may not take advantage of some occasion. Guard against the provocative woman and do not be surprised if she wishes to drag you into disgrace. She opens her mouth like a thirsty traveler to drink any water coming her way. A wife's grace gladdens her husband and her prudence refreshes his body. A wife who knows how to be silent is a gift from the Lord. Like the sun rising over the mountains of the Lord, such is the enchantment of a good wife in a well-kept house. Like the light which shines from the sacred lampstand, such is a beautiful face in a well-shaped body. Like pillars of gold on a silver base, such are beautiful legs on sturdy feet. There are 2 things which grieve me and a 3rd which makes me angry: a warrior who suffers want. The merchant can barely avoid greed. Sirach chapter 27. Many sin for love of gain. He who desires riches silences his conscience. Just as the stake is settled between 2 stones, so sin wedges itself between buying and selling. The house of him who does not keep himself firmly in the fear of the Lord will soon be knocked to the ground. When a sieve is shaken, the dirt falls through. The kiln tests the potter's handiwork. A well-tended tree is shown by its fruits, so a man's feelings can be detected in what he says. Praise no one before he has spoken, since this is the acid test. If you pursue righteousness, you will achieve it and wear it like a festive garment. Birds associate with their own kind, so, too, does truth greet those who are faithful. The lion lurks in wait for its prey. The wise man's conversation follows wisdom all the time. In contrast, the fool changes like the moon. When among fools, be sparing with your time. No one can bear those who swear all the time. Their quarrels make you cover your ears. Blood is spilt when proud men quarrel, and their insults are painful to the ear. He who betrays a secret is no longer trusted. Like a bird, you have let your friend go, you will not get him back. When you open your hand, the bird flies off. The man who winks an eye is plotting evil, no one can persuade him to change. He is all sweetness to your face, praising your words, but behind your back he speaks differently and twists your words. I hate many things but nothing more than this man. When one tosses a stone in the air, it falls back on his head. He who digs a pit will fall into it. If you do evil, evil will befall you, and you will not know from where it comes. The proud man makes use of mockery and insults, but vengeance lies in wait for him like a lion. Those who gloat over the downfall of good men will fall into the snare. Grudge and wrath, these also are abominations in which sinful people excel. Sirach. Don't bear grudges. Chapter 28. He who demands revenge will suffer the vengeance of the Lord, who keeps a strict account of his sins. Forgive the mistakes of your neighbor, and you may ask that your sins be forgiven. If a man bears resentment against another, how can he ask God for healing? If he has no compassion on others, how can he pray for forgiveness for his sins? As long as he, mere flesh, is resentful, who will obtain his pardon? Remember your end and give up hatred. Refrain from quarreling and you will avoid sin. The sinner causes trouble between friends, sowing discord among peaceful people. Fire burns when fuel is thrown on it. The more powerful the man, the greater his rage. A sudden quarrel sparks off a fire. Blow on a spark and it ignites. Cursed be the gossiper with his spiteful tongue. He has destroyed many who lived peacefully. The vicious tongue has demolished many and hounded them from nation to nation. It has ruined powerful cities and laid low great households. The vicious tongue has cast out wives who were beyond reproach, depriving them of the fruit of their work. Whoever listens to it will never find rest or be able to live in peace. The whip leaves a mark, but the lash of the tongue shatters bones. Many have been felled by the sword, but many more have perished by the tongue. Happy he who has escaped it and has not been exposed to its fury, who has not been weighed down by its yoke or been tied up in its chains. For it is a yoke of iron and its chains are bronze. It brings a miserable death. Actual death is better. But it will not tyrannize those who keep faith, it will not consume their soul. Those who desert the Lord will be its victims, it will burn them without being burnt up itself. Look, you put a fence around your property and protect your silver and gold. In the same way, make weights and scales for your words and put a bolted door at your mouth. Beware of a slip of the tongue when you speak, lest you fall in front of those who lie in wait for you. Sirach chapter 29. Lending to your neighbor is an act of mercy, going to his aid fulfills the commandments. Learn to lend to your neighbor when he is in need and, in turn, repay him any loan on time. Keep your word, remain faithful, and you will find what you need on every occasion. Many think of a loan as a quick deal and put those who help them in a fix. The moment they receive it, they kiss the hand of the moneylender and humble themselves in deference to his wealth. But on the day repayment is due, they prolong the time, repay with reproaches and blame the current situation. If they can repay, they pay barely half and the moneylender will be grateful for that much. They have robbed him of his money and, moreover, he has gained enemies, for they repay him with curses and insults and reproaches instead of gratitude. Many a good person refuses to lend, not for any malicious reason, he is afraid of being cheated without cause. Nevertheless, be kind to those who have fallen on hard times, do not keep them waiting for your help. For the commandment's sake, help the poor man. Better to spend your money on a brother or a friend than to let it rust under a stone, to your discredit. Use your money according to the commandments of the Most High and you will find it more valuable than gold. Fill your barns with good deeds and these will rescue you from misfortune, they will fight for you against your enemy better than any strong shield and mighty spear. A good man goes surety for his neighbor. Do not forget the favors of your guarantor, he has risked his life for you. The sinner wastes his guarantor's money. The sinner is anxious to be a guarantor but he will be condemned as a loan shark. Help your neighbor as far as you can but beware of falling into the same plight. Some things you cannot live without, water, bread, clothes and a house for shelter. Better a poor man's life in his wooden shack than lavish banquets in another man's house. Be content with whatever you have, be it great or small. It is hard to go from house to house. Be off, stranger, make room for somebody more important. It is hard for a good man to have hospitality denied him and to be treated like a debtor. Sirach, correct your child, chapter 30. The man who loves his son makes use of the rod. If such a father dies it is as if he had not died, for he leaves behind him another man like himself. In life he had the joy of his company and he is not sorrowful when death comes. He leaves it to his family to take revenge on his enemies and to return gifts to his friends. The man who coddles his son will be constantly bandaging his wounds. Just as a badly broken-in horse cannot be mounted, so a spoiled son becomes insolent. Pamper your child and later he will terrify you. Do not laugh at him lest you have to suffer and grind your teeth. Do not let him be independent as a Child, but rather bruise his ribs while he is still young, lest he grow stubborn and refuse to obey. Be strict with your son and persevere in this, so as not to suffer because of his misconduct. Better a poor man healthy and fit, than a rich man tormented in body. Health and vigor are worth more than gold, a robust body, more than great wealth. No riches are preferable to physical well-being, and no joy is greater than a cheerful heart. Death is better than a wretched life, and eternal rest preferable to lasting sickness. Dishes of food placed on an empty tomb are like good things offered to one who cannot eat. What good is a sacrifice offered to an idol? It can neither eat nor smell. So is it with the one whom the Lord has stricken. Do not give yourself over to sadness or torment yourself with brooding. Joy of heart is life to a man. Delight your soul and console your heart. Jealousy and anger shorten your life. A cheerful and kindly person will have a good appetite and enjoy his food. Sirach chapter 31. The sleeplessness that wealth brings makes a man lose weight. The cares of the day prevent sleep. Happy the one who doesn't go after gold. The rich man toils to increase his wealth and then sits back and lives in luxury. He who loves gold cannot be righteous. Gold is a snare for those who are possessed by love of it. The senseless will be caught in it. Happy is the rich man who has not sinned in this way and has not gone after gold. Who is he? Let us say, fortunate man. For he has given a wonderful example. Who has been tested in this and found perfect? He has reason to be proud. Who could have sinned but resisted, who could have done wrong and did not do it? His fortune is firmly established and the assembly will acknowledge his generosity. Dinner parties. Are you seated at a lavish banquet? Don't be over ready to eat and don't say, what a feast. Remember that a greedy eye is an evil thing. What is worse than such an eye? That is why it was condemned to weep. Do not stretch out your hand to everything you see or be quick in reaching for a dish. Judge the needs of your fellow guest by your own and in all things act prudently. Eat what is set before you like an educated person and don't be a glutton, lest you be detested. Like a well-mannered man, be the first to stop. A little is sufficient for a well-bred person. Listen to me, my friend, and do not neglect what I say. A generous host is appreciated, he is justly praised, but everyone will complain about a stingy host and their complaints will be justified. Do not try to show how much wine you can take, for wine has been the ruin of many. As the furnace tests the temper of steel, so wine proves hearts and makes proud men quarrel. Wine is life for man if taken in moderation. What is life without wine? Wine makes for a glad heart and a cheerful mind, if taken moderately and at the right time, but if taken to excess it brings bitterness of soul, excitement and a fumbling step. Drunkenness inflames the anger of a stupid person to the point of scandal. It reduces his strength and brings him blows. Do not reproach a neighbor during a wine feast, and don't look down on him when he is merry. Sirach, chapter 32. Have you been chosen to preside at a party? Don't give yourself airs. Just be like everyone else in the group. If you are older, speak as befits your age, but know what you are talking about and do not interrupt the music. If there is a concert, refrain from speaking. If you are young, speak if you have to, but not more than twice and only if requested. Keep to the point and say it all in a few words. Show that you are well informed but not over-anxious to speak. Do not try to be the equal of eminent people and do not chat when someone else is speaking. As lightning goes before thunder, the reputation of a modest man goes before him. Leave the party at the right time and do not be slow about it. There you may relax and do as you please, but do not sin by bragging. And thank your Creator for the enjoyment of all good things. Whoever fears the Lord will accept his cor rection, and those who rise at dawn will win his favor. The man who follows his law will be nourished by it, but the hypocrite will find it a stumbling block. Those who fear the Lord will please him, and their good deeds will shine as a light. The sinner refuses correction and excuses himself for doing what he wants. A person of judgment reflects beforehand. Never act without first reflecting, and you will have no regrets. Do not go along a rough road lest you stumble on stones. And do not be too sure of your step on a smooth path. Beware even of your own children. Be careful in whatever you do. In so doing you keep the commandments. Those who trust in the law will keep the commandments, and those who obey the Lord will come to no harm. Sirach chapter 33. Evil will not go to meet the one who fears the Lord. The wise man never departs from the law. An intelligent man has faith in the law, which for him is as trustworthy as an oracle. If you want people to listen to you, prepare what you have to say. A mocking friend is like a wild horse, neighing when anyone rides him. Why is one day holier than another, when the light of the sun shines on every day of the year? By the Lord's decision they were made different. Some of these he chose to make holy, others he made ordinary days. All human beings come from clay just as Adam himself was formed. In the fullness of his wisdom the Lord made each one unique and diversified his conditions. Some he made holy, keeping them near to himself. Others he cursed and humiliated, removing them from where they were. As clay in the hand of the potter to be molded as he pleases, so are all in the hands of the Creator to be dealt with as he sees fit. Good is the opposite of evil, and life, of death, and the sinner is the opposite of the upright. Consider all the works of the Most High and you will see how they go in pairs, by opposites. As for me I have been the last to keep watch, like a gleaner following the grape-pickers. By the blessing of the Lord I have taken the lead, and like the grape picker I have filled the winepress. Note that not only for myself have I toiled, but for all who seek instruction. Hear me, rulers of the people, leaders of the assembly here. Neither to son, wife, brother, or friend give power over yourself during your life. Do not give your property to another in case you regret it and have to beg them to return it. As long as you live and there is breath in you, do not give power over yourself to anyone. It is preferable for your children to be dependent on you, than that you be obliged to depend on them. Be master of all that you do. Wait until the end of your days, until death is near, to distribute your inheritance. Your slaves. Fodder, stick and burdens are for the donkey. Put your slave to work and you will have peace. Let him take it easy and he will want to be free. Yoke and harness will bow the neck. For a criminal slave there are torture and the stocks. Send him to work or he will be idle, and idleness teaches much evil. Give him work that is appropriate for him. But do not be over-demanding with anyone and do nothing without discernment. You have a slave. Let him be like you. You have a slave. Treat him like a brother. You need him as you need yourself. If you ill-treat him and he escapes, where will you go to look for him? Sirach. Dreams. Chapter 34. The foolish are deceived by vain and false hopes. To rely on dreams is like grasping a shadow or chasing the wind. What you see in dreams are only reflections. A person sees his own image. What clean thing can come from what is unclean? What truth comes from what is false? Divinations, omens and dreams are empty like the fantasies of a woman in labor. Unless they come as messengers of the Most High, do not pay attention to them, for dreams have led many people astray. Those who hoped in them have fallen. Not so the law, which never fails but comes true. Wisdom from the truthful lips of God is the highest truth. One who has traveled knows a great deal, and a man of wide experience will talk soundly. A person who has not had trials knows very little. But the traveled man is competent in many ways. I have made many discoveries on my travels and understood more than I can express. I have often been in danger of death, but have been saved thanks to my experience. The spirit of those who fear the Lord will live, for their hope is placed in the one who saves. He who fears the Lord is in dread of nothing. He will not be cowardly, for he is his hope. He who fears the Lord is a happy person. To whom does he turn? Who is his support? The eyes of the Lord are on those who love him. For them he is powerful protection, strong support, shelter against scorching wind and the midday sun. He is a safeguard against stumbling and assurance against a fall. He lifts up the soul and gives a sparkle to the eyes. Offerings pleasing to God. An offering to God from stolen goods is a stained offering. The sacrifices of the wicked do not please God. The Most High takes no pleasure in the offering of the godless. It is not the number of victims that obtains pardon for sin. Offering to God from what belongs to the poor is like slaughtering a son in the presence of his father. Bread is life to the poor. If one builds and the other destroys, what do they gain besides true glee? If one prays and the other curses, whose voice will the master listen to? If a man is cleansed after touching a corpse and then touches it again, what good was there in his cleansing? If anyone fasts for his sins and then commits the same sins, who will hear his prayer? What value is there in his fasting? Sirach chapter 35. Keeping the law is worth many offerings. Being faithful to the commandments is like a peace offering. Returning kindness is an offering of fine flour. Renouncing sin pleases the Lord, and shunning injustice is a sacrifice of atonement. Do not appear before the Lord with empty hands. The commandment requires that you bring an offering. When the offering of the righteous is burned on the altar, the fat drips down and a fragrant aroma rises to the Most High. The sacrifice of the just man pleases God and will not be forgotten. Honor the Lord with a generous heart and do not be stingy with the first fruits of your harvest. Offer your gifts with a smiling face, and when you pay your tithes do it gladly. The Lord will not delay. Give to the Most High as he has given to you. If you attempt to bribe him with gifts, he will not accept them. The Lord is judge and shows no partiality. He will not disadvantage the poor, he who hears the prayer of the oppressed. He does not disdain the plea of the orphan, nor the complaint of the widow. When tears flow down her cheeks, is she not crying out against the one who caused her to weep? The one who serves God wholeheartedly will be heard. And the Lord will not delay, nor will he be patient with the wicked, but he will crush the backbone of the merciless and have vengeance on the Nataeans, until he has completely destroyed the hordes of the violent and broken the power of the wicked, until he has repaid each one according to his deeds, until he has judged his people and made them rejoice because of his mercy. Blessed is his mercy in the time of adversity. It is like rain clouds during a drought. Sirach. Prayer for the deliverance of Israel. Chapter 36. Have mercy on us, Master, God of all, and look on us. Take action against the pagan nations and let them see your power. You have shown them your holiness through what happened to us, so now let us see your great power in acting among them. Let them acknowledge, as we have acknowledged, that there is no God but you, Lord. Give new signs, do fresh wonders, stretch out your hand and be glorified in your strength. Kindle your fury and rouse your anger, destroy your opponents, crush your enemy. Hasten the day, remember your covenant so that we may speak of your great deeds. Let the survivors be consumed in fiery wrath, let those who oppress send to perdition. Crush the heads of hostile rulers, those who say they alone count. Gather all the tribes of Jacob, give them back their inheritance as in the beginning. Have pity, Lord, on the people known by your name, on Israel whom you called your firstborn. Show compassion to the holy city, to Jerusalem where you rest. Fill Zion with the fame of your wonders, and your people with your glory. Confirm the promises made to your people long ago and fulfill the promises made in your name. Reward those who wait for you and fulfill the words of your prophets. Hear the prayer of your servants, Lord. So that all on earth may acknowledge that you are Lord and everlasting God. Choosing a wife. The stomach takes in all kinds of food, but one food is better than another. Just as the tongue can distinguish the flavor of game, so does the alert mind detect lies. A crooked heart causes sorrow, but an experienced person knows how to get even with him. A woman will accept any husband, but some daughters are better than others. Woman's beauty rejoices people and is beyond all that could be wished for. If she is kindly spoken and gentle, he is the most fortunate of men. When a man marries, he acquires a fortune, someone who understands him and who will help and support him. When there is no hedge, the property will be destroyed. Who would trust a clever robber flitting from town to town? And who would trust a man without a nest, who lodges wherever nightfall finds him? Sirach. Friends and Counselors. Chapter 37. Every friend says, I am your friend, too, but some friends are only friends in name. Is it not a deadly grief when a companion or friend turns into an enemy? O evil intention! From where have you sprung, to cover the earth with deceit? One kind of comrade takes advantage of his friend's good fortune. Do not neglect a friend or forget him once you are wealthy. All advisers give advice, but some seek only their own gain. Distrust the person who offers advice, lest he take advantage of you. Perhaps he says to you, you are on the right road, while he keeps his distance, to see what happens to you. Do not seek advice from one who looks at you suspiciously. Do not consult a woman about her rival, or a coward about war, or a merchant about exchange rates, or a buyer about selling, or a jealous man about gratitude, or a selfish person about generosity, or an idler about any kind of work, or a casual worker about finishing a job, or a lazy servant about an important task. Do not rely on these people for any advice. But go to a trustworthy man whom you know to be a keeper of the commandments, whose soul reflects your own and who will suffer with you, if you fail. In the end, keep to your own heart's advice, since no one deserves to be trusted more than your heart. For a man's soul often gives better advice than 7 watchmen placed on a height. Besides all this, implore the Almighty to guide your steps in the truth. A plan must be at the beginning of all work. When you decide, for ways are open before you, good, evil, life and death. Your own decision makes the choice. A clever man may teach many but do no good for himself. A man may be wise, but if his words are rejected he will end up starving. Not having won the favor of the Lord and being destitute of all wisdom. Another man is wise for himself. He himself takes advantage of his wisdom. The truly wise man teaches his people, and they benefit by his knowledge. The wise man is full of blessings. Man's days are numbered, but Israel's days are countless. The wise man will win the confidence of his people. My son, test yourself during the course of your life. For everything does not suit everybody, nor is everyone satisfied with all things. Do not be insatiable in every pleasure, or be excessive in what you eat. Sirach. The Doctor. Chapter 38. Give due honor to the doctor, for you need him and God himself established him. Healing, in fact, comes from the Most High. The doctor's expertise gives him prestige and wins for him the admiration of the powerful. The Lord created the medicinal herbs which grow on the earth, and these a sensible person will not despise. Remember that he used a simple wooden rod to purify water and so make known his power to everyone. It is he who gives knowledge to humans so that his power be glorified. My son, when you are sick do not be anxious. Offer incense and a memorial gift of fine flour and rich offerings according to your means. Then consult the doctor. May he who sins before his Maker fall into the hands of the doctor. Grieving. My son, weep for the dead, lament to express your sorrow and bury the dead with fitting ceremony, and do not fail to honor his tomb. Weep bitterly, cry out with full voice, and observe the period of mourning in accordance with the merits of the deceased. Let it be for 1 or 2 days, and so avoid criticism, and then be consoled in your grief. For sorrow may lead to death and a dejected heart loses its vitality. Let your affliction cease with the funeral. Do not let your heart give way to grief. Remember, there is no coming back, you do the dead no good, but rather harm yourself. Keep in mind my sentence which will be yours as well, mine yesterday, yours today. When the dead person is at rest, let his memory be one of peace. Craftsmen and wise men. A law student acquires wisdom during his leisure hours. How can the man who guides a plow become wise, he whose pride lies in snapping a whip and driving a bullock, who works continually and talks of nothing but cattle? His heart is set on plowing furrows and all his attention is given to fattening heifers. It is the same for all craftsmen and skilled workers who toil day and night, professional engravers and designers of seals. All are intent on creating different designs and reproducing the model, and they work even at night in order to succeed. So, too, is the smith standing beside the anvil intent on forging iron. It is the same for the potter seated at his work, his foot turning the wheel, always concentrating on what he is molding, every movement purposefully controlled. His arm kneads the clay, his feet make it pliable. All his attention is needed in applying the glaze and at night he sees to the cleaning of the furnace. All these craftsmen depend on their hands for gaining skill in their different crafts. 32 Without them a city could not be built. But they are not to be found in the councils of people, nor do their words carry weight in an assembly. They do not occupy the judge's seat and they are not familiar with the law. They are not cultured people or skilled in judgment and they are not found among authors of proverbs. They uphold creation and civilization, and their prayer is in their life's work. Sirach. Chapter 39. Quite different is it with the person who spends his life reflecting on the law of the Most High. He examines the wisdom of the sages in times past and in his free time he studies prophecies. He keeps in mind what people of renown have said and penetrates the mystery of parables. He searches for the inner meaning of proverbs and is interested in the secret of parables. He is at the service of the great and is seen in the company of leaders. He travels in foreign lands and has experience of both the good and the evil in mankind. Early in the morning his heart is set on turning to the Lord, his Maker, and raising his being to the Most High. He opens his mouth in prayer and makes supplication because of his sins. If such is the will of the great Lord he will be filled with the spirit of discernment. He will then speak words of wisdom and celebrate the Lord in prayer. He will acquire just judgment and knowledge and reflect on the Lord's hidden mysteries. In his teaching he discloses what he has learned and glories in the law of the Lord's covenant. Many people praise his discernment and never will he be forgotten. His memory will not fade and his name will live on from generation to generation. Nations will proclaim his wisdom and the assembly will celebrate his praise. As long as he lives his name will be more glorious than 1,000 others, and when he dies that fame will be enough. All creation is good. I wish to share still more of my reflections. Hear me, devoted people, and grow as a rose planted near a stream. Spread fragrance around you like incense. Magnify his name and proclaim his praise with song and lyre, expressing this with thanksgiving. How magnificent are the works of the Lord! All his commands are appropriately timed and satisfy every need. No one should say, "What is this? Why is that?" All must be studied in its time. At his word the waters ceased to flow and piled up, his voice caused the reservoir of water to open. The deeds of all are before him, nothing is hidden from his eyes. No one must say, "What is that? Why is it so?" For everything is created for a purpose. His blessing covers all things and like a river drenches the land as in a flood. Similarly he may pour out his wrath on the nations, just as he has turned fresh water into salt. If his ways are smooth for holy people they are full of obstacles for the wicked. From the beginning, good things have been created for the good and likewise evil things for the wicked. Most necessary for man's life are water, fire, iron and salt, wheat and flour, milk, honey, the juice of the grape, oil and clothing. All these are good for those who are good, but for sinners they become evil. Certain winds are created as a means of punishment and in their fury they are a scourge, unleashing their violence in the time of destruction and satisfying the wrath of their Creator. Fire, hail, famine and death have all been created for punishment. The fangs of wild beasts, scorpions, vipers, and the avenging sword for the destruction of the wicked, all joyfully carry out his commands, all are ready when need arises and at a given moment they will not fail to obey his word. For that reason I reflected and from the beginning I decided to write. All the works of the Lord are good and he will satisfy every need in due time. You must not say, "This is less good than that," for in its time everything will serve a purpose. So now, with all your heart and in full voice, sing and bless the name of the Lord. Sirach. The misery of human life. Chapter 40. Painful is the lot of all humans, a heavy yoke is upon the sons of Adam from the day they leave their mother's womb to the day they return to the mother of us all. What is on their mind, what they fear in their heart, is the day of their death. From the king, glorious on his throne, robed in purple and wearing a crown, to the lowliest person sitting in dust and ashes and covered with sackcloth, there is anger, envy, trouble and unrest, fear of death, rivalry and quarrels. And at night when we lie down we have fresh worries, scarcely are we at rest and asleep when we are troubled by dreams as vivid as if it were day and we were fleeing from a battle. When it is time to wake up, we feel surprised to find that there is nothing to fear. This is the fate of every living creature, man and beast, but for sinners it is 7 times worse, in death, bloodshed, strife, sword, misfortune, famine, affliction and calamity. All these were created for the wicked, and the flood as well was sent on their account. Everything that comes from the earth goes back to the earth, and what comes from the waters returns to the sea. All bribery, all injustice will disappear but good faith will last forever. The unjust riches will vanish like a stream that dries up. A generous man has reason to rejoice, whereas sinners go to their ruin. The children of the ungodly will not be blessed with large families. Kindness is like a garden of blessings and charity endures forever. Life is pleasant both for an independent person and a self-reliant worker, but still better off is the one who finds a treasure. The name of a man who has children or who has established a town will live on, but to have found wisdom is a greater good. Owning cattle and plantations brings fame, but a perfect wife is a richer blessing. Wine and music gladden the heart, but better still is the love of wisdom. The flute and harp make fine music, but even more appreciated is a pleasant voice. Gracefulness and beauty delight the eye, but not as much as the fresh growth of fields. It is always good for friends and companions to meet, better still for husband and wife. Brothers and protectors are useful in hard times, but it will be of greater help to have been a giver of alms. Gold and silver make for security, but good advice is better. Wealth and strength give confidence, but good counsel is more esteemed than either. You cannot suffer loss when you fear the Lord, with it you have all the support you need. The fear of the Lord is like a garden of blessings. My son, do not live the life of a beggar. When a man is always eyeing another's table, it cannot be said that he is really living, for he is defiling himself with another's food. That for which a shameless man begs may seem sweet to his mouth, but his inner being is burning. Sirach. Death. Chapter 41. Death. What a bitter thought for someone who lives happily among his possessions, a prosperous and successful man who is still able to enjoy his food. Your sentence, death, is welcome to a needy person whose strength is failing, who is old, worn out, and full of worries. Do not be afraid of death's sentence. Whether you live for 10, 100, or 1,000 years, no one in the netherworld is concerned. Abominable people, such are the children of sinners who gather in the houses of the ungodly. The inheritance of sinners will perish. An ungodly father will be insulted by his children, for they hold him responsible for their disgrace. Woe to you, wicked people who have forsaken the law of the Most High. At birth you are born to be cursed, and you will be cursed at death. All that comes from the earth returns to the earth, and the ungodly go from curse to ruin. People grieve because their bodies will perish, but even the evil names of sinners will be blotted out. Have regard for your reputation, for it will live on, of greater value than 1,000 hoards of gold. Few perhaps are the days of the just man's life, but an honored name endures forever. True and false shame. My children, keep my teaching and live in peace. Of what use is hidden wisdom and unseen treasure? It is better for a man to hide his foolishness than to hide his wisdom. Therefore, feel shame according to what I say. It is not always fitting to feel shame, but this is not understood by everyone. Be ashamed of licentiousness before your father and mother, and of a lie before a ruler or an important person. Be ashamed of criminal behavior before a judge, and of iniquity before an assembly of people. Feel ashamed of dishonesty before your partner or friend, and of a theft in the place where you live. Be ashamed before the truth of God and His covenant. Be ashamed of keeping the loaves for yourself, of being unable to give and to receive, of not returning a greeting, of staring at a prostitute, of rejecting a compatriot, of depriving someone of what is his, of gazing at another man's wife, of being too familiar with your maidservant. Keep away from her bed, of insulting words to a friend. Do not follow up a gift with a reproach, of repeating what you have heard and betraying secrets. On these occasions feel genuine shame, and you will be respected by all. Sirach chapter 42. But do not let yourself be led astray by any of the things that follow. Do not be ashamed of the law of the Most High and His covenant, of judging even the wicked fairly, of keeping accounts with a traveling companion, and of sharing your inheritance with friends, of checking weights and scales, of making a profit whether small or great, of bargaining with traders, and of being strict with children, of severe corporal punishment for a servant who deserves it, with a prying wife, or when many people are around, it is wise to make use of seal and lock. For deposits it is essential to reckon by number and weight and keep a written record of what you give and receive. Do not be ashamed of correcting someone who is foolish or stupid, or an old man who has become childish. Doing that, you prove that you are a well-educated person and you will be narrowly respected. A daughter causes her father hidden worries. Is she young? She may not marry. Is she married? She may be disliked. Is she a virgin? She may be seduced and become pregnant in her father's house. Is she married? She may be unfaithful or unable to have children. Your daughter is unruly. Watch her well, or she may make you a laughingstock to your enemies, the talk of the town and a public disgrace. Do not be taken by human beauty, and do not sit down in the company of women. Better a man's wickedness than a woman's kindness. Second part, God's wisdom in history. Wonders of nature. Now I shall remind you of the works of the Lord and relate what I have seen. The Lord's works depend on his word, and creation obeys his will. The sun shines on everything, and the work of the Lord is filled with his glory. Not even to his holy ones has the Lord given full knowledge of all his marvelous works. The Lord, Master of the universe, has ordained that all should stand firm in his glory. He penetrates both the depth of the abyss and the human heart and knows their secrets. For the Most High has full knowledge and ordains the signs of the heavens. He knows the past and foretells the future and reveals the traces of the world's mysteries. No thought escapes him, no word is hidden from him. He has ordered the marvelous works of his wisdom, from ever and forever. Nothing can be added, nothing can be taken away, and he has no need of counsel. All his works are beautiful, even to the smallest spark of light. All this lives and endures forever, all is useful and obedient to his will. All things are in pairs, one opposite the other, and nothing he makes is in any way deficient. One thing emphasizes the excellence of the other. Sirach chapter 43. The pride of the heights above is the clear firmament. How glorious is the spectacle of the heavens! When the sun rises and appears, it proclaims, I am your marvelous work, Most High. At noon, it dries up the land. You may stoke a furnace to produce heat, but 3 times greater is the heat of the sun burning the mountains, and sending out fiery vapors, blinding the eyes with its rays. How great is the Lord who made it and whose word directs its rapid course. He also made the moon, exact in marking the months and the passage of time. With its full light gradually decreasing, the moon determines and rules over the feast days. The month also takes its name from the moon. How marvelously does it increase in its phases, providing a signal for the heavenly hosts, brightly shining in the expanse of the sky. The bright radiance of the stars accounts for the beauty of the sky. What a brilliant ornament they are for the heights of the Lord! At the command of the All-Holy they stand as appointed and never fail to keep watch. Look at the rainbow and praise the one who made it. How magnificent it is in splendor! It forms a circle of glory in the sky, a bow that is bent by the hands of its maker. At his order the snow falls and lightning strikes according to his decrees. The storerooms of heaven are opened and clouds fly away like birds. It is his power that thickens the clouds, making them freeze and break into hailstones. He has only to look and the mountains are shaken. At his will the south wind blows, as do cyclones and hurricanes from the north. The snow flutters down like birds and alights on the ground like locusts. The eye marvels at the beauty of its whiteness and the mind is amazed to see it fall. He sprinkles frost on the earth like salt. The cold north wind blows and turns the water into ice. Ice forms on all stagnant water, giving it a freezing coat of armor. He wears down the mountains and scorches the desert, withering the green grass as if by fire. A mist is a timely remedy, and dew after the heat restores it all to life. According to his plan he stilled the great deep and planted islands in it. Those who cross the seas tell of its dangers, and we listen in astonishment to what they relate. It is all about strange and marvelous adventures with marine animals and monsters of all kinds. Thanks be to God, all turns out well and everything is held together by His word. We shall not give further examples. Where shall we find the strength to glorify Him? For He is the mighty one, greater than all His works. The Lord is awesome and sovereignly great, and admirable in His power. Let your praise exalt the Lord as best you can, He is greater than you could even express. Honor Him with all your strength and do not tire, for you can never praise Him enough. Who has seen Him and can describe what He has seen? Who can glorify Him as He merits? Many mysteries greater than these still remain, for we have only seen a fraction of His works. The Lord has created all things and to the godly He has given wisdom. Sirach. In Praise of Ancestors. Chapter 44. Let us now glorify illustrious men, the ancestors of our people. The Lord gave them great glory according to His own greatness from the beginning. Some ruled kingdoms and were renowned for their achievements, others were wise and able to counsel, or spoke as prophets. They led the people with their warnings or with their knowledge of the popular writings. Some cultivated music and poetry, 6 others were rich and powerful men living peacefully in their homes. All were highly respected in their days and honored by the people they lived with. The names of some lived on and people still praise them today. But now consider the godly men whose good deeds have not been forgotten. Those who came after them benefited from the rich legacy they left. Enoch pleased the Lord and was taken up, calling future generations to repentance. Noah was found to be perfectly just. Abraham, Isaac and Jacob. No one has been found to equal Abraham in glory, the great ancestor of many nations. He was faithful to the law of the Most High who made a covenant with him, a covenant that was marked on his flesh, and on the day he was tested he was found faithful. That is why God promised by oath to bless all the nations through his descendants, that he would make them as numerous as the dust of the earth and exalt his posterity like the stars. He promised that their land would stretch from sea to sea, from the river to the ends of the earth. The Lord renewed his covenant with Isaac for the sake of his father, Abraham. This covenant and the blessing of humanity he made to rest on the head of Jacob. He assured Jacob of his blessing, giving him the land that would be his and determining the portions to be shared among the 12 tribes. Sirach, Moses, Aaron, chapter 45. From Jacob's descendants the Lord brought forth an upright man who won the favor of everyone and was loved by God and men. Moses. Blessed be his memory. The Lord gave him glory equal to his holy angels and power that terrified his enemies. At Moses' word he halted disaster. He chose him from among the living to become holy by being faithful and humble. God let him hear his voice and led him into darkness, where face to face he gave him the commandments, the law of life and knowledge, to teach Jacob the covenant and make his decrees known to Israel. He raised up Aaron, the brother of Moses, a holy man like Moses, of the tribe of Levi. He made an eternal covenant with him and conferred on him the priesthood of the people. He honored him by giving him majesty and putting a glorious robe upon him. His vestments and ornaments were splendid in their perfection: breeches, cloak and ephod. As a fringe to his vestment he gave him pomegranates and many golden bells to tinkle as he walked and to be heard in the temple as a reminder to his people. The Lord gave Aaron sacred vestments of gold, blue and purple, the work of artists, the pectoral of judgment, the Urim and Thummim, scarlet yarn spun by a craftsman, precious stones with engravings in a setting of gold, the work of a jeweler, to serve as a memorial with their graven inscriptions of the tribes of Israel. He gave him the turban with a golden diadem engraved with the words of his consecration, a superb ornament, expertly crafted and a delight to the eyes. Such things had never been seen before Aaron's time. His sacrifices were to be completely burned twice daily, in perpetuity. It was Moses who consecrated him and anointed him with holy oil. It was for him an eternal covenant and for his descendants, for as long as the heavens would last, to serve the Lord as his priests and bless the people in his name. He chose him from among all the living to offer sacrifice to the Lord and sweet-smelling incense as a memorial, to make atonement for the people. The Lord gave him authority to interpret his commandments and utter decisions, to teach Jacob the divine words and enlighten Israel with his law. Outsiders conspired against him and were jealous of him in the desert: Dathan, Abiram and their followers and the supporters of Korah, all violent men full of hate. The Lord saw it and was angry. He increased Aaron's glory by giving him a heritage. He allotted to him the first fruits and to begin with, bread in abundance. For their food is the sacrifice offered to the Lord, which he gave to Aaron and his descendants. But he was to inherit no land as patrimony, no special portion was to be his own, for the Lord himself is his portion and inheritance. Phinehas. As for Phinehas, son of Eleazar, he is the third in glory, for he was full of zeal in the fear of the Lord when he stood firm among a rebellious people with noble courage and made atonement for Israel. Consequently, a covenant of peace was concluded with him, making him the leader of the sanctuary and of his people. He and his descendants were to have the dignity of high priesthood forever. It is not like the covenant established with David, the son of Jesse, of the tribe of Judah, for the kingship passes only from father to one of his sons, but the heritage of Aaron passes to all his descendants. May the Lord give them wisdom of heart to judge his people with justice, so that their prosperity may not dwindle and their glory may live on in their descendants. Sirach, Joshua and the Judges. Chapter 46. Joshua, son of Nun, was a valiant warrior, and as a prophet he was the successor of Moses. He lived up to his name, proving himself to be a savior of God's chosen people, punishing the enemies that attacked them and leading Israel to claim their land. How magnificent to see him, arm raised and with sword ready to attack the cities! Who before him had such staying power? He was, indeed, Yahweh's warrior. Was it not he who held back the sun, making one day as long as two? He called on the Most High when the enemy pressed on every side, and the mighty Lord responded with hailstones of exceptional size. He attacked the enemy nation and destroyed the assailants at the pass of Beth-horon, so that the nations might know the strength of Joshua and that they were fighting against the Lord. Joshua was loyal and devoted to the Almighty in the time of Moses, he and Caleb, son of Jephunneh. They stood firm against the assembly and tried to keep them from sinning by silencing their wicked murmuring. Because of this, they were the only two spared out of 600,000 people on foot. And they took possession of their inheritance in a land flowing with milk and honey. The Lord gifted Caleb with strength. Samuel. Samuel was a prophet and beloved of the Lord. He established the kingdom and anointed rulers to govern his people. He judged the assembly according to the law of the Lord, and the Lord protected Jacob. He was accepted as prophet because of his faithfulness, and proved that his words were of a trustworthy seer. He called on the Almighty Lord, and the enemy pressed from all directions, and he offered a sucking lamb. Then with a mighty roar the Lord thundered from heaven 18 destroyed all the enemy's leaders and the tyrants of Philistia. Before his time came for eternal rest, Samuel called men to witness before the Lord and his anointed, I have not taken anyone's belongings, not even his sandals, and there was no one to accuse him. Even after he died, he prophesied and revealed to the king his death. From the grave he spoke as a prophet to blot out the wickedness of his people. Sirach. David, chapter 47. After him the Lord raised Nathan to prophesy in the time of David. As fat is selected from the peace offering, so David was chosen from among the Israelites. He played with lions and bears as if they were lambs or young goats. He was still young when he slew a giant to restore the honor of his people. He invoked the Lord Most High, who gave him strength to slay a mighty warrior, and so exalt the power of his people. So they glorified him for his 10,000s and praised him as a blessing from the Lord when he was chosen king. For he wiped out his enemies on all sides and annihilated his adversaries, the Philistines, crushing their power forever. Sirach, Elijah and Elisha, chapter 48. Then came the prophet Elijah like a fire, his words a burning torch. He brought a famine on the people, and in his zealous love had them reduced in number. Speaking in the name of the Lord he closed the heavens, and on 3 occasions called down fire. How marvelous you were, Elijah, in your wondrous deeds! Who could ever boast of being your equal? By the word of the Most High you brought a dead man back to life. You heard a rebuke at Sinai and sentences of punishment at Horeb. You were taken up by a whirlwind of flames in a chariot drawn by fiery horses. It was written that you should be the one to calm God's anger in the future before it broke out. In fury, to turn the hearts of fathers to their sons and to restore the tribes of Jacob. Happy are those who will see you and those who die in love, for we too shall live. Such was Elijah, taken up in a whirlwind, and Elisha was filled with his spirit. During his life no leader could shake him, no one dominated him. Nothing was too difficult for him, and even in death his body prophesied. In life he worked wonders, in death his deeds were amazing. Despite all this, the people were not converted and did not turn away from sin. The people were greatly reduced in number, but they still had a ruler from the line of David. Some of them were upright people, others became sinful. In his time the sun went back and he lengthened the life of the king. In the power of the Spirit he foresaw the last things and consoled the afflicted people of Zion. He revealed what would happen until the end of time and made hidden events known before they occurred. Sirach. Other Kings and Prophets chapter 49. The memory of Josiah is like blended incense carefully prepared by the perfumer. He followed the right way in converting the people and removing the horror of idolatry. He set his heart on the Lord and succeeded in having godliness prevail over wickedness. With the exception of David, Hezekiah and Josiah, the kings were very sinful men. They abandoned the law of the Most High, bringing an end to the kings of Judah. They surrendered their power and their honor to foreign nations. Their enemies set fire to the holy city, making its streets desolate as Jeremiah had foretold. It was Ezekiel who saw the vision of glory when the Lord showed it to him above the chariot of the cherubim. He also remembered Job, the one who always followed the way of justice. As for the 12 prophets, may their bones spring to life from the tomb, for they comforted the people of Jacob and saved them with confident hope. Can we ever adequately praise Zerubbabel, who was like a ring at the finger of God, and likewise Joshua, son of Josadak? They were men who, in their days, built the temple to the Lord, a sanctuary destined for everlasting glory. Lasting too is the memory of Nehemiah, who rebuilt our ruined walls, provided gates and bars and rebuilt our homes. No one on earth was created to equal Enoch, for he was taken up from the earth. And never was there a man like Joseph, the greatest among his brothers, the leader of his people. Shem and Seth were exalted among men, but Adam's glory was greater than any other living being. Sirach. Simon the priest, chapter 50. The high priest Simon, son of Onias, repaired the sanctuary and fortified the temple during his lifetime. He laid the foundations for the high double wall and for the fortifications surrounding the temple. In his days a reservoir for water, a cistern as great as a sea, was excavated. Anxious lest his people might perish, he fortified the city against a siege. How magnificent he was when, surrounded by his people, he emerged from the inner sanctuary like the morning star amidst the clouds, like the full moon, like the sun shining on the temple of the Most High, or a rainbow in a glory of clouds. He was like a rose in spring, a lily beside a stream, a green shoot on a summer day, or incense burning in the censer. He could be likened to a massive, golden vase adorned with every kind of precious stone, to an olive tree heavy with fruit, or to a cypress rising to the clouds, when, robed in ceremonial garb and in perfect splendor, he went to the sacred altar, the court of the sanctuary, with glory. There he would receive from the hand of the priests the portions of the sacrifice, as he stood by the hearth of the altar encircled by his brethren like a young cedar on Lebanon. It was as if he was surrounded by palm trees when all the sons of Aaron in their splendor, with the offerings to the Lord in their hands, stood before the assembly of Israel. When he had completed the service at the altar and presented with dignity the offering to the Almighty and Most High, he took the cup in his hand and poured out a libation of the juice of the grape at the foot of the altar, a pleasing aroma to the Most High, King of the world. Then the sons of Aaron shouted. Then suddenly all the people bowed down with their faces to the ground and adored the Lord, the Almighty and Most High God. The choir as well sang his praises, making beautiful music. And the people made supplication to the Most High and prayed to their merciful Lord, until the ceremony was over and the service of the Lord completed. The high priest then came down and raised his hands towards the whole assembly of the people of Israel to give them in a loud voice the blessing of the Lord and to have the honor of pronouncing his name. Then for a second time the people bowed in worship to receive the blessing of the Most High. And now, bless the Lord of the universe, who everywhere does great things, who exalts our days from birth and is merciful to us. May he give us happiness and grant peace to Israel in our days and forever. May he continue to give us his blessings and be a savior to us in our days. There are two nations I greatly dislike, the third is not a nation, they are the inhabitants of Mount Seir, the Philistines and the foolish people who live in Shechem. Instruction and understanding and knowledge, that is what Jesus the son of Sirah, the son of Eleazar of Jerusalem, has written in this book as he poured out the wisdom of his heart. Happy the one who pays attention to this teaching and gains wisdom by taking it to heart. Doing that, he will be strong in all circumstances, for the light of the Lord is his path. Sirach. Prayer of Jesus, son of Sirach. Chapter 51. Will give thanks to you, O Lord and King. For you are my protector and helper, you have delivered my body from destruction, from the snare of the wicked tongue and from lips that speak lies. In the presence of those who stood against me, you were my helper, my deliverer. In the fullness of mercy and the glory of your name, you delivered me from the teeth of those ready to devour me, from the hand of those wanting to take my life and from my many trials. You rescued me from choking fire on every side. You delivered me from the depths of the netherworld, from an impure tongue and lying words, from vicious slander reported to the king. I was near to death, I was already at the gates of the netherworld. They surrounded me on every side with no one to help me. I looked for human comfort and there was none. Then, Lord, I remembered your mercy and your deeds from all eternity, knowing that you deliver those who hope in you and save them from the hands of their enemies. I sent up my prayer from the earth, begging to be delivered from death. I called on the Lord, the Father of my Lord, do not forsake me in the day of my affliction, when I am helpless against arrogant enemies. And my prayer was heard, you saved me from destruction and delivered me from an evil plight. That is why I will give you thanks and praise and bless the name of the Lord. In my youth, before I set out on my travails, I openly sought wisdom in prayer. While she blossomed like a ripening cluster, my heart was delighted in her. As soon as I began listening to her she was given to me, and with her, much instruction. With her help I made progress and I will glorify him who gives me wisdom, for I decided to put it into practice and ardently seek what is good. I shall not regret it. My soul has struggled to possess her. I have been attentive to observe the law, and after my faults I have stretched out my hands to heaven and lamented my ignorance of her. My love of her increased and I found her in repentance. It was through her from the beginning that I learned to possess my heart. She will not forsake me. With my whole being I sought her. In return for this, the Lord has given me words to praise him. Come near, you who are without understanding, and join her school. Why do you say you are deprived of all this and that your souls are thirsty? This is what I say, buy this without money. See for yourselves, my toil has been slight and I found deep rest. Be instructed, whatever the cost, and you will gain what is better than gold. Let your soul find joy in the mercy of the Lord, and do not be ashamed to praise him. Do your work within the appointed time, and the Lord in his time will give you your reward. If you liked the video, subscribe, like and share on social networks, and God bless you.